And I thank Vicky and the Film Institute of India to give me this opportunity to moderate and speak at this BRICS first emerging technology seminar. And I have some very distinguished panelists with me. I would introduce them to you one by one, but I would like to say a few things first, like what are you going to learn from this, or what's going to happen here today? You see, technological advancements, they are taking place so rapidly that even for professionals, it's a job. It's really a job to keep pace with them. And the common man, or even the students, cinema students, they always get mixed up with the jargon. So one would try and do, we have the practitioners here, we have two exhibitors with us, we have a cinematographer and a researcher, and also a VFX gentleman. Now, these are all practitioners living their lives, working day and night, using these technologies. So I would request them one by one to take on the jargon, explain it, and also, but before that, I would like to bring a little holistic approach, and I'm sure Asim's going to like that. One would like to say that technology is merely a tool for you to say your stories a little more effectively. It can never replace your imagination. It can actualize, it can realize your visualization. But eventually what matters is what have you thought. A film is good only if it says good. You have to have strong characters, you have to have strong drama, you have to have amazing contrasts so that people can learn. You have to shake people, you have to make them angry, you have to make them cry, you have to make them laugh. And that technology helps you do it in the more effective way. Now, for any technology to be adapted by a profession, it has to pass three tests. First of all, that it should actually facilitate what the creative mind has visualized. Secondly, it should not be tedious. And there are billions of dollars in researchers like Alexander who have given their life to make it easy for people to, otherwise technology can be a lot of numbers, a lot of hardware, which is very difficult to deal with. To make the workflows easy is the job of these professionals and corporations. And thirdly, it should save time and remove the human drudgery out of our lives. I remember I've been very, very interested in newer technologies. I wouldn't have been able to make India's first science fiction series way back in 1987 and 88 had there not been compositing, had there not been VFX at that time, because a lot of drama got interpreted only through technology. Similarly, I wouldn't have been able to make Dekh Bhai Dekh, and people wouldn't have enjoyed Dekh Bhai Dekh's spontaneity of actors had there not been a 3-camera setup, live shooting and editing stuff. So technology is, like I said, there is something called virtual reality. There is something called augmented reality. There is AI. There is AI-assisted software, there is cloud computing, and there is people are now doing live productions on cloud. Now, what does it bring to us all? It makes the process very, very democratic. It breaks the barriers. You can scale it up because you can shoot, and somebody is sitting in a remote place, maybe not in your country, not in your continent, can download it and start editing it. Somebody can start doing graphics on it. Somebody can start putting sound on it. So the speed and the scale. So I personally feel that we are going through a golden period of cinema. Asim, do you agree with me? We have so much now. The stories
absolutely.
Was somehow started it, like Eisenstein and D.W. Griffith and many other European filmmakers in early years of cinema came together and defined what cinema's grammar should be. I think a similar kind of synergy I see happening all over the globe. You do animation. The Indians do animation for Hollywood films. Russians do music for European films. So things are happening. The barriers are breaking, and it's excellent time. But once again, it is what you say, how you use the technology is going to define you. Avatar is a great film. It also, I mean, it is a great film because it used the technology to say something good, to say something responsible. Now, technology has taken us deep into the ocean, and we are seeing the kind of species we could never see. It has taken us to the remotest of galaxies, and it has catapulted writers. It has catapulted production designers who are showing us different galaxies, different creatures, different kind of world. But all this has to make sense in the end, because whatever you produce is going to be consumed by humans. And humans must lead a value-based life. It is one society, like in India, we say Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. Translated into English, it means that it is one world, is a whole, the whole world is a family. So once again, I would like to tell people that you must use the technology, because it is going to make, it is going to take drudgery out of your life. You must use all these tools to say great stories with great characters. But in the end, it is your mind, your imagination that precedes it all. Having said that, let me introduce my distinguished panel to you. We have Aseem Bajaj. Aseem Bajaj is a very celebrated and awarded cinematographer. He has worked in both spectrums of Indian cinema, from films like Chameli, where he won several awards, and Hazaron Khwaishein Aisi. He has done absolute pot boilers like Sardar and Double Dhamal. And to use his own words, he says it is the imagination, not the equipment, that creates a memorable cinema. Emotion, characters, and drama are the things that cannot be quantified. So to bring these alive is an intuitive and organic process. And I think that defines the tone of today's session, that in the end, it is your approach towards technology and how do you use it. Another saying is also, I like it very much, fundamental purpose is to support and enhance the narrative flow of the film. So his own life, he immerses himself into the director's vision, and has a relationship with him like a husband and wife, while the film is like they fight a lot, but in the end, he comes out victorious. So I like Aseem to say a few words about himself in his own words.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I mean, there's nothing much to say really about myself. I do feel shy. You have enough said. You have said enough, Anand sir. So let's get on with the topic. I mean,
the next panelist is Mr. Alexander Zenin. Now, he is the chief researcher at Cinema and Photo Institute, Russia. Let me tell you that NIKFI, which was set up in 1929, is the only institute in the world that covers all areas of professional cinematography technology. It would be very interesting to know his views on technologies, because he is the one who invents these technologies, and then they have to deal with the hardware manufacturers and software manufacturers to allow us to do things in real time in an easy way, which saves us cost, or sometimes not, but definitely saves us time. Over to you, Mr. Alexander. I would like you to say a few words about yourself.
Всем привет. На самом деле,
good afternoon. Our research institute has existed for much longer. We have celebrated a 92nd anniversary of our institute. In Russia, we don't really produce any hardware at the moment. For the film, for filming, we're researching some stereo cinematography technologies, 3D technologies, and audio technologies. We produce microphones for studios and for sound recording. At the moment, the technologies are developing so rapidly, and film theaters have happened to be not so ready for those new technologies, and changing cinema theaters equipment so often. Well, now the pandemic has influenced this process. The film theaters happen to have not so good equipment. The quality of it is not so good. So we're trying to normalize the quality of film projection equipment at the moment. After the breakup of the Soviet Union, the standards in cinema viewer experience have dropped, and we're trying to get back to those standards to create new national standards of cinema viewing and to understand the standard of cinema projection in film theaters, because we have realized that if the quality of cinema viewing in film theaters is low, viewers turn to film streaming platforms instead.
Thank you much. Thanks a lot. Now, next up is a very young and dynamic exhibitor, Mr. A.B. Musa, who's carrying on the legacy of running his South Africa's first largest and the most modern independent cinema chain, which is now about 82 years old. He's very interested. I've seen a lot of documentaries that he keeps on making and putting on the net. And since I had to introduce him, I did some due diligence on him. He goes and mixes with the audience. He tries to see how can he make, because why do we make films if people cannot watch them in comfort and the way they should be watched? I mean, sometimes we see bad projection kills all the hard work that a unit of about 130 people put in just because the projection or the sound in the theater is not good. But that's not the case with Mr. Musa's theaters. He is hands-on, and I'd like now for him to say a few things about his own operation. His group is called the Avalon Group.
Thank you, Anand, and greetings to everybody, wherever you are in the world. We trust that you are safe and well. And Anand, I think you really well encapsulated that cinema becomes that final manifestation of all the sweat and toil of producers and directors and scriptwriters and the whole journey of a film. And that final
carry on, Eddie. Do you want to say something else? Do you want to tell us what a modern exhibition chain you're running?
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes,
can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, sorry. I thought I was speaking. I thought you couldn't hear me, but anyhow, yeah. So I was just saying that thanks for giving that encapsulation of cinema. I think it's certainly cinema becomes that final layer of experience for the effort that so many people make in making a production of a film over a period of time. And so for me, coming from a family legacy of being involved in cinema for 82 years, I do believe that the new technologies are the next chapter in the story and journey of cinema, which we're delighted to be a part of.
Now, our next panelist is a very distinguished person, and I think all the questions that people have in their mind about VR theaters and flying theaters and cave theaters and all that, we have Mr. Zhenyu Lei, who was the director at China Film Group Corporation, and the main focus of his today's talk would be VR movie halls. Well, sir, we are very, very interested in knowing what you're doing in China about VR movie, because I think the world is a little behind you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Anand. First, I would like to thank everyone for this extremely honorable opportunity to be participating in this event today, in this online event today. We are also one of the largest Chinese movie companies, and we also started different roles in the movie industry, starting with directing, starting with technological innovation and the application of this technological innovation. And I think, like just now, Alexander mentioned that the COVID situation has affected our working, but we hope that with the technological advancements, we can actually make a lot of difference to this industry overall. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, the last up is Naveen, are you the youngest of all of us? You look one. You definitely look youngest. Now, Naveen is a bomb of a talent. He's got the youngest, the most. I mean, he's a newbie as far as VFX setups are concerned. But if you see the kind of awards his studios won, you would say that he's a thespian. He's taken on a lot of Goliaths, and I'm sure a lot of his competitors are extremely jealous of his success. He's won National Award for Shivai. He's won Star Screen Awards, Z Cine Awards, etc. And is also featured. Now, this is very funny. He's also featured in Hot Top 100. Now, Hot Top 100 means what, Navi? That means you or your studio. But since it's the digital studio magazine, so I think they are calling your studio the Hot Top, right? Well, over to you, Navi.
Years. So I don't know if I'm young or old. It's been 20 years for me to be in this industry. Devdas was my first film as a VFX artist, and then the journey goes on, and then today I'm doing what I'm doing. So thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Now, I don't know whether Francisco is with us. Mr. Lima, are you with us? No, I don't think so. So let's start with the panel discussion. I would first ask Asim to give his views, because he, being a cinematographer, he actually has to deal with, with the kind of technology in which we are shooting films, in which we have Unreal worlds on Unreal platforms, and coders do your lighting and tracking, and we have motion grab and everything. For a cinematographer, he has to relearn his craft completely. So how's it been for you? And where do you think the future of your profession lies? Like, what do the people who are listening to you, what will you tell them to pay attention to so that they are ready when they start using these technologies?
Thank you again, Anji, for this topic, actually, and the approach that you're going with. Basically, I mean, what I think is our focus still as artists has to be, I mean, I wouldn't call, like somebody called Naveen, I mean, we've done so many movies together. He is not a technician. No, he's an artist. The technique, as you said before, is merely a tool. And you're just limited by your own imagination. This is just, technique just provides you what you can imagine. So it's only giving you an opportunity to fly as high as you can. You know, you imagine it, it'll be done. If you can imagine it. You can't imagine it. If you can't see it, they can't provide it. So I love technology, but yeah, I'm not a slave of technology. I love drama, human face. I mean, human face,
I think,
for me is, yes, sorry.
No, sorry, your video had frozen, that's it. Carry on.
So I mean, as I see it, I mean, my background is theater. I've never been to a film school. Have always been fascinated by it, but yeah, I come from theater. I was a musician who became a cinematographer, and
let me introduce Asim's lineage. He is the son of a hugely respected theater stalwart based out of Delhi in NSD, Mr. Ram Gopal Bajaj. And he's been a rebel all his life. He did not complete his academic education. He went into theater, and some of the other drifted into cinema and has come into cinematography. Thanks, Asim. Thank you very much. Mr. Alexander, my next question is to you. Since you are a researcher, so you have to be a little ahead of all of us. Where do you think cinema would be 20 years from now? Like, what kind of technologies we'll be using 20 years from now? How would we shoot our films? How do we tell our stories?
Вы знаете, вот на самом деле, так как я вижу достаточно много
Well,
фильмов,
you know, because I watch a lot of films and we hold leading in film festivals, for instance, the Moscow International Film Festival. And we watch movies from many countries. We have our own local Russian festivals. And I can see that our viewers, they tend to prefer easy, simple films, simple stories. The technology is there, they have a role, but it's the human stories. It's our ability to show beautiful stories on screen is much more welcome than CGI or action films. We had a lot of films that come out, blockbusters, with a lot of CGI, and it's all well and good. It looks awesome. It looks like something really impressive, but it's never getting the same ratings as love stories or large-scale sports dramas. I think that in 20 years, filmmaking is not going to change that much. I think that history evolving in a spiral, and if you watch the films that are currently getting all of the awards, a lot of them are made with the traditional film, 9mm, and we're going back to that as well, using film not to get an effect of the scratches or to make the image look older, but to make it look lively, to make it look human, to make it look interesting and deep for the viewers. Film is still there. Film is making a comeback, and I'm really happy to do that because I love working with film. Now I have to work with digital technologies, but my heart is still with the old film. But something I'm concerned about, I don't think the viewers are seeing cinematography the way it was created by the crew. A lot of effort goes into film production. I myself participated in the making of 2 huge Russian movies. I saw the way it was done. And then accidentally, I end up with my girlfriend in a movie theater in my city. And I realized because the sound was off, I can't hear what the actors are saying. The picture is very bleak. I can't hear. I remember watching the film in the studio, and I love the product. I love the result, but the result that I'm getting in a movie theater is nothing close to that. And all of the viewers are getting that same bad experience. And perhaps movie theaters are killing the viewers' lovers for big movies. Because, well, soap opera series don't make it to the big screen. People like to watch them via platforms, and the budgets of the series are close to feature full-length films, and the quality of the series is growing, and they're becoming very captivating. New seasons are coming out. But usually when they make the pilot series, they think that that's where it's going to end, and then they keep going and going for seasons and seasons. So I really don't know what's in store for us in 20 years, but I'm really hoping that classical cinema making is going to stay. Perhaps we'll go back to 3D films. In Russia, they're not really perceived very well at this point, not very popular.
So then in terms of research, where is your and your organization's focus is?
сейчас у нас исследования ведутся в области...
Well, research is currently focused on the standards of screening qualities and augmented reality. This is something that is a development on the 3D technologies, more of a physical phenomenon. Our institute is working on creating a 3D TV. Imagine a set of a puppet film, and then you start to get 3D characters. That's something that the institute is currently working on. It's for Soyuz Multfilm, our leading animation studio, and they have a model there in place. Our key focus for the moment is not to lose the screen as an art and help movie theaters get on par with the technologies. We're moving away from the lamp houses as a source of light, changing those to lasers, And to make this transition, we need to change the configuration of the screens and the screening halls. I don't know what's happening globally in terms of these issues, but by changing the source of light, what we are seeing is usually there is a decrease in the quality of the image because it becomes unevenly lit, or there is a distortion in the color scheme.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Lei, my next question is to you. You seem to have taken the lead in, China seems to have taken the lead in terms of changing the infrastructure of your theaters into VR theaters. Would you like to describe for our audience what exactly is a VR theater and why do people use this term immersive experience? What do they mean by immersive? Kindly elaborate.
好的，这个主持人，
Thank you, Mr. Anand. So in China, the VR technology development in China has been very, very fast. So in China, we have a lot of like VR theaters where we are using the VR technologies for the theaters. So not just in big cities, but we are also using it in small cities. So we are focusing on the rapid development and also the application and the use of this VR technology. And through the use of this technology, we are expanding the technology, and we also, for example, we are using it in different modes and in different scales of the theaters. At the same time, in China, a lot of movies we have used the VR technology, and through the practical experience, actually, we came to understand that there were still some problems in the VR technology and the application of the technology. And for example, then we started this in terms of application. Even small families, they started buying the VR used applications or those kind of where you can watch VR applied movies, and they were also started watching in each and every household. So this way, we also it was not just for big movies, but also like in the small scale. For example, if people are watching in their homes, they have like VR enabled equipments through which they can watch that. So then we also started with some of the similar kind of technology. For example, VR enabled games. So we were encouraging people also to buy these kind of games and also play them. And so, for example, we also have this VR movies and games together integrated, and these kind of appliances. So these also like slowly helped us to expand our VR budget and also make more advancement in terms of VR. So so it was not just that we were using it for movies in the big screen, but we were also using it in like small scale application. And then, for example, in these kind of games, and then, for example, in small cities, for example, when we were having like any small events, we were also trying to use some VR enabled theaters or events where we were using VR technology to get people excited with technology, and so that they can learn more and more about the technology and also apply it and use it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Naveen, my next question is to you. With what has been the biggest change in your last 20 years and now, particularly with the LED screens, Unreal Engine kind of a shooting where a director is able to see his final output while at the shooting stage? How does it change life and work for somebody like you who earlier people would contact, they would just bring the shot footage to you. And now probably they are calling you for pre-visualization and they're calling you for script sessions. So how has it all changed for you?
It's been a great transition in the last 20 years, but probably the last 10 years, it's been a larger change in terms of approaching us as in VFX. VFX, as we know, is widely used in Hollywood films, and then there are always feature films that we get inspired with. So in this case, visual effects was something that, especially in India, it wasn't um, as much used as it was used in Hollywood. But today things have changed. I mean, it's an integral part of filmmaking, storytelling. VFX is now also used for taking the story forward, to tell the story. So there are in the initial years they were in Bollywood, it was just cable erasing or maybe a thermocol erasing here and there. But today the entire shot is kind of being created in VFX, including people, as you said. A lot of technological advancements in terms of motion capture, Unreal engines, uh, uh, AI. It's a tremendous transition, and I'm very happy to be part of this transitional phase. And I'm very happy that I'm able to contribute in my own way uh, to take this technology forward in India.
We're not able to hear Naveen. Naveen, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Am I
fine.
audible, sir? Now?
Yeah, fine. AB, my next question is to you. Few years back, there was a big onslaught of 3D films. Hollywood did it, India did it, China did it, everywhere there were 3D films, and audience were supposed to wear glasses and watch those movies. And now, is the trend still on in your country, or do you still get products which require audience to wear glasses? Because that was quite a different and a new experience at that time. How is the South African population reacting to that now?
So I think the South African trend is no different than in international countries where 3D was, Avatar really became the catalyst for the adoption of the 3D experience. And flowing from that, there's been, as you say, a significant number of films. It's been particularly popular amongst kids and animated films, because I think it's the novelty for the families and the kids to be able to enjoy that kind of third dimensional experience. So it certainly is something that has been part of the evolution of technological enhancements of cinema. If you look at the history of cinema, 3D was one chapter of enhancements. I mean, we had single screens, we went into multiplexes, megaplexes, stereo sound evolved into Dolby surround sound. Then we had the 3D. We now obviously have IMAX. We have the 4DX, the Xbox. So all of these are different, I think, unique offerings, and certainly 3D has certainly been one that's complemented that whole evolution and revolution that's taken place in cinema throughout its existence. So as you identified, and my learned colleague from China identified, that the augmented reality and the virtual reality, which is now often called extended reality as a combination, is really, I think, the next chapter in this phase, in terms of creating the opportunity, especially amongst the younger audiences who like multiple screen experiences. They're not always focused on a single screen platform to consume entertainment. And so that integrated with, I think, mobile phones, which is also part of this whole augmented experience, and with 5G and Wi-Fi, that's a possibility at cinemas, I think is going to be the next real, what can I say, makeover and reinvention or re-innovation in the history and journey of cinema and audience experience in their want of an experience at the cinema, which is going to be, as you asked earlier, what is immersive? It's all your sensories that are being connected with as you engage in a film and as you experience what the producers creativity has put together, and all these technologies help to enhance the sensory or immersive experience that you have in consuming content. Particularly horror films have been very popular in the virtual and augmented reality for now.
Thank you. Lei, my next question is to you. You at the film group, you involved in producing films. Do you do animation films also?
我们国内每年都有很多。
In China, we actually in terms of our domestic movies, every year we do a lot of animation movies, and for example, around 30 to 20 movies we have which are animated, and there is also pretty good reception, and the audience is also very happy with the animated movies. So we actually target around 20 to 30 every year.
So in terms of animation, do you do this motion grab thing? Naveen, you can tell me what is it called when they give an actor a suit and they make him act, and eventually it is the lion who's there. I mean, this is the actor is playing the lions there. What is that called? Motion capture. Is that it?
Motion capture. Yes, sir. Motion capture.
So you're in China, 2D animation is more popular, or 3D, or the new augmented reality, virtual reality, immersive kind of technology? Because animation films definitely depend a lot, or rather wholly on technology. So how is it in China? Hello.
Was the question for me, sir?
Yeah, the question was for Lei.
Okay.
But that is why I'm saying China. Do you want me to repeat the question, Lei? Hello.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So speaking in terms of motion picture, we are also doing it for more than 10 years, and we have the application and use of this motion picture in animation movies. And I think in terms of animation movies and motion picture, in my understanding, we do use that, but we are also using, for example, we use some expanded technologies, in the sense to bring into reality and to merge both these technologies together. So at times for this animation pictures, mostly we are using the 3D technologies, and we are also using the motion capture. But with this advancement of technologies, and there are different reception for both this 3D and this kind of motion capture. So those both are changing, and it depends on right now we mostly focus on the 3D technologies actually. Thank you, Chair.
Alexander, my next question is to you. People are very, they use this terminology very fashionably these days, that it's an interactive film. What, according to you, is an interactive film?
Вы знаете, у нас около 5 лет назад был...
About 5 years ago, we had an experience of projecting interactive films. It was the only film with about 80 variants of the end of the film. But as you know, the history develops in a spiral. In 1960s, we had an attempt of creating interactive films when viewers could vote for the outcome of the film. So this film was released in film theaters. People connected through an application on their smartphones and voted for the way the development of the story should take. It didn't raise much interest, and in our country, this project didn't continue. We realized that the drama of the story must be quite well developed, because so that part of the viewers can vote for one variant or the other, and the other part of the viewers get offended because they're watching the film that they did not want to watch. So we polled the viewers of this film, and the results were not so good. I think the problem is not in the technology, because technically there is no problem for all the viewers to connect through their smartphones, but the film itself was not interesting. And in Russia, there are no plans for making films like this again.
Okay, thank you. Asim, we hear a lot of people say that the technicians and cinematographers are using artificial intelligence more and more in accomplishing what they need to accomplish. So can you elaborate a little bit on that? How exactly is AI used in cinematography? Tell you what, these days you keep reading that artificial intelligence is being used for production planning, for cutting trailers, for selecting scripts, for selecting actors, and also in terms of lighting. That how have you ever experimented? Do you know what does it mean? Can you tell our audience what does it mean to use artificial intelligence? So for that, yeah, you've never used it. Right. It enhances. It just decides by the usage of the owner of the phone, and by analyzing the, they just give them the kind of pictures that they want to see. Is that what you're saying? Sure, sure. So you're not fond of using AI in your work? No, you're more. Okay, one more thing, like Alexander, though he's in the research institute, he said that he prefers film. What do you prefer, film or you prefer digital? Digital. Okay, so you and Alexander have to do, you have to have a debate. Why film and why digital? Leigh had. Alexander, are you game for meeting Naveen? I'm sorry, Asim and Naveen, both of them are there in Moscow right now.
Yes, I know this hotel. Unfortunately, today I'm busy, but if you're available tomorrow, I'll be happy to meet you.
Cheers.
In our research institute.
Naveen, how is AI integrating with what you do with special effects? What does artificial intelligence actually do for VFX and whatever hardcore machines and softwares that you do mathapachi with all day to get us what we want? Because we just come and tell you this is what we want and that is your problem. So do you use artificial intelligence? Do you use, or is it the presets in the machines? Can you just tell us, our audience, take them through your workflows and your work processes? You're quite a mystery. You only listening, you're not talking. So you need to let people know about your work.
Artificial intelligence is a tool basically, and it's not always that AI can do everything that we want the software to do. Because it's a creative job, so it's always a combination of different approaches, be it software, be it the technique, be it the way it is shot. So it's always a combination of everything, and AI, we are still exploring that as to where can we use it and how can we use it. But to my knowledge, there are few presets in the software which reads the image and probably does what we wanted to do. Like if there's a green screen and let's say the preset says that okay, this is a tool to extract green screen without manually doing anything. So it's a click. And for different things, like rotoscopy is very famous in visual effects. So uh, there are softwares which auto reads the image and then makes a rotoscopy of the subject that we select to. So it's always a combination, and we are still exploring how well we can utilize it to be more efficient. I mean, it's a great thing that's being introduced every day as we speak also. So it's a thing where we have to uh, keep uh, have an eye on what's the latest technology and how can we be more efficient in terms. It's all about efficiency. The As you said, sir, in post production, uh, post production is a place where everything it can be solved. Is the perception that everybody has. Um, so in that sense, there should be tools which was I audible?
Not in between. If you could repeat your last sentence, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so the game is all about being efficient. Being efficient gives us flexibility to probably bid better. You know how bidding goes in post-production houses. I mean, 10 studios bid for the same film. So the game here is who can be more efficient and who can deliver faster and cheaper. So that's the zone which AI could probably help us to win on.
And AB, in your field of work, is AI making any impact in terms of your scheduling or your projection systems or anything? I mean, do you think artificial intelligence would add value to your line of work?
Yes, definitely. It will contribute to a huge time-saving factor there. I mean, 10 people doing something manually probably could, with AI, it could just be one operator or a technician working on that particular task. So it will definitely help us to decrease the overall cost, but at the same time, probably that money could be used to build something better and greater.
Naveen, as I understand, AI is mostly used to automate the workflows, which can be automated. So
Yes.
are those being used in post-production?
Yes, but not everywhere. I mean, it's task specific. I mean, so there are, if there are 100 tasks that in a VFX that we need to do, probably with our AI we could do like 10 tasks or maybe 20% of it. So and as I said, we are still exploring. I mean, everything like the motion capture tool itself is a AI. I mean, motion capture is basically used to capture the motion of the body. So if we had to manually animate it, probably it would take, let's say, animating a 2-minute character might take say 10 days or 15 days with 10 people. With this motion capture, it's a day's job. So all these things help us to be, yeah, photo, of course, yeah, it needs minor tweakings here and there, but then yes, we save a lot of time and uh, strength, resources that will be used it to do manually otherwise.
Thank you. Leb, there is a term which people are using again and again called algorithm. So algorithmic editing. So one is perpetually confused. What is algorithmic editing? Because as one understands, and Alexander, you may pitch in as well, algorithms is basically certain processes.
Я вот хотел дополнить немножко к предыдущему по
I would like
поводу...
to add to the previous question, talking about artificial intelligence and comment about how this is applied in Russia, because, well, this is something that we actively use in our production process. Luckily, well, it's used in post-production mostly. We know that there is Netflix that's coming to Russia, and Netflix is actively buying a lot of films, and very often the Netflix original film should be in HDR and 4K, and the cameras that were initially used are 32K, and HDR is impossible. So in Russia, we apply artificial intelligence algorithms to correct all of the errors, because sometimes there is problems with some of the shots. We have software that is able to add contrast, to streamline all the errors, and to make the image better when you need to transition from low resolution to high resolution without any quality losses or insignificant quality losses. We're usually going to be stepping away from the green screen, because even the TV series are now used without that. We're either just opposing this with the CGI. We have a specialized league for backgrounds to avoid the green screen. And we have a number of blockbusters, big movies that are coming out this year with the LED films. For instance, Ad Film, we built a huge LED screen in front of which there were well-made models of planes operated by a hydraulic mechanism. And there was an ideal juxtaposition. It seemed like it was actually being made from the plane without any defects that you would see when you're using the green screen, because, well, the hair is always the problem, as you know, it's always there. So you can always see the green screen bits and pieces here and there. Artificial intelligence is used for that as well, to eliminate these distortions coming from using the green screen. But using the LED screen with an actual background, this really simplifies the post-production process, reducing the cost. It's much faster, it's much high quality. We can work both with backgrounds and the LED screen. So this is the technologies that we've already mastered.
Hey, Alexander, what do you understand by algorithm? Can you, for our audience, define what is an algorithm? And once again, I would say, what is an algorithmic editing? And Lay, I would like you also to pitch it.
Okay, I got you. I don't know any movies at this point that would have been made using this algorithmic editing. We've heard of the concept, but I don't think a lot of our directors are ready to work with the technology because, well, we need to develop the algorithm in advance in order to make sure that we can then make the film material compatible for the editing to work. We know that it exists, so we know it's out there, and that all of the editing rules are given to a certain artificial intelligence, and then they're able to edit the film. This is partially used with us to sometimes fix the sound. This is a tedious, lengthy process when you need to cut off the beginning and the end. You need to have some internoise, and if you don't have any internoise, then that's when you can rely on artificial intelligence, on these algorithms. So the way I see it, algorithms are a mechanism that tells the software what to do with the material. Algorithmic editing is editing guided by a certain set of rules. So we give the artificial intelligence a set of rules, and then it applies it to the filming material. But I've never seen examples of this being used in Russia. Perhaps I've seen some, but the films that are released in our movie theaters, well, I don't I know that editing is still being performed manually.
Thank you very much, Alexander. I think you've explained what is algorithms and what is algorithmic editing. Thanks a lot. Lei, would you like to pitch in on this question? Would you like to tell us your opinion about algorithms and algorithmic editing and also artificial intelligence?
Thank
you, Chair. So I also don't. I think this algorithmic editing. Exactly, I don't understand what you are talking about. This algorithmic editing, but in terms of AI editing, we use a lot of AI editing, and using this, for example, we use a lot of data. For example, in editing, we use the AI editing data and to improve the editing. So we use these data, for example, in one moving, we are using the AI data to improve the quality of the sound or the quality of the screen and the exposure, and then like those data gets collected in the system, and then we are like, you know, using those data to create our specific standards for editing. So that way also we use the AI editing. And for example, we are also using that to standardize our techniques and also kind of rules for this kind of editing in the editing. At present, in our work, we are using the one we are using the most is like for the AI editing. So we are using the technical nitty-gritties and, you know, small things like to, for example, to better the screen, like if we can better it even by 1% or 2%, and then like, you know, slowly like improve it. So these kind of things we are using, and we also hope that we can actually we are still hoping to use more of AI for the editing work, and we are still exploring the AI techniques to improve our sound quality and also the other techniques. So in terms of application in present, we also have some projects which have recently started, which are like using AI technology for and we have this repository, which is like AI technique repository for developing developing quality in the media. So this repository is actually helping us a lot for creating new standards for editing using AI and cinematography. Thank you.
Thank you. Lei, in your talking points, you've written that you're developing flying theaters in China. By flying theaters, you mean where the chair moves up and down and the guy's legs are, the audience's legs are not on the ground and they're in the air, and it's a dome theater, and you give them a very immersive kind of an experience. Did you mean that or something else?
This is like, for example, we have this flying theaters. So the audience, they can actually sit in their offices, or they can sit in any other place of their comfort, and then through this kind of 3D techniques, and we have the equipment actually. So if they are installing that equipment, that gives them a feeling, like for example, those equipment enable the rotation of the sitting arrangement or the rotation of the sitting area, and that gives them a new experience, which is like which takes them to another world. So for example, in China, we are having this kind of this 3D equipment which they are using for viewing or watching certain programs. That is a new thing which we are using, and it is a special equipment. We also have it in our exhibitions in the science exhibitions in China, where they are using this, and people can also come there and have an experience of this technique, and then if they like it, they can also buy it. So it's like very comfortable, and they can also like, you know, buy the equipment. So that's what I meant by this flying theater equipment.
Thank you very much. It's been a very, very rewarding discussion, and I hope the audience liked it. We are really out of time. So I thank Lay, Alexander, AB, Naveen, and Asim. It was good to be with you guys. All the best and take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye and thank you from China.
Yes. An extended greetings from India to all the BRICS participants in the BRICS markets and the BRICS countries, of course. In fact, we have a very interesting session that has been curated. It's called Tomorrow's Strategies, Understanding Animation Globally, with a spotlight on the BRICS markets. With almost like 18 months plus going into pandemic, and especially most of the students from different age groups till about 18 who are not been vaccinated in many countries, and a primary entertainment for them had been animation. It's a very important topic to discuss for all of us as to put the strategy for tomorrow, because in many countries, animation is still considered to be kids' genre. At the same time, we would quickly discuss on how this is going to really look at a transition to all ages. So we have with us Mr. E. Suresh from Mumbai. And E. Suresh is a legendary animation filmmaker, and the wonderful designs that he makes. He is really well known for that. We also have Mr. Uttam Pal Singh, been a veteran into animation industry, presently heading Discovery Kids and a complete content strategy there. We have Firdausi from South Africa. And I would let you introduce yourself, because I'm meeting many of you for the first time. We have Mr. Valdemir from Moscow. It was really nice to interact with him recently. And then we just got Mr. Boris joining us. Boris, welcome. We had been discussing that you were busy in the traffic jam trying to navigate through the traffic. Good to know that traffic is on and life is normal there. The way we would actually approach is that I would the first a quick round. I would request all of you to quickly introduce yourself and give your take on the topic. And then I would like to ask you some pertinent questions. But please keep it brief, keep it between 1 minute and 3 minutes. And that's where we will get time for a better discussion. So let's start with Mr. Valdemir, and then we can actually come to E. Suresh, and then we will go to the rest of the participants.
Hi, thanks for introduction. Thanks for calling here, and it's an honor for me to represent Russia here. I would like to share my screen. I have a small presentation of what we are doing in Wizard and what we've been doing for more than 10 years. Just a second. That's the presentation of the Wizard Animation Company. Actually, it was founded. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. Wizard was founded more than 10 years ago in Moscow, in Voronezh, Russia. Since then, we released 7 features. Most well known is Snow Queen, 4 features of the Snow Queen, 2 parts of Ship and Wolves, and the recent, the most, I think, popular animation we released was The Secret Major Control Agency, released worldwide as Netflix film, and it was released more than in 130 countries. More of that, we also produced more than 4 TV shows like Yoko, like Keepers of Wonders, and that's a short slide of the Secret Major Control Agency, and that's the slides for the Snow Queens. Right now we have in production Snow Queen 5, and the next title, which is coming after the Secret Major Control Agency, is the Warrior Princess. So we have more than 350 people working in the office all the time, and here you can see the Warrior Princess title. If to be short, we faced 2 big problems with our production. First one is the software, which needed to be developed because we understood that we need to use a lot of software, which is pretty expensive and which is pretty hard to license in Russia, for example. And it took a lot of production budget, but we understood that we need to make our own DCC platform, and we spent more than 8 years for making it. We started it on Snow Queen 2, and right now the Secret Major Control Agency, this movie was mostly produced on this title. And the second big issue that we faced before that is that we need to make a lot of new guys, a lot of new employers, a lot of new animators, and we made a school for animators. Right now it's working online, and a lot of people from Russia, a lot of people from European countries already studying there. And we plan to build a Wizard Animation House in Voronezh, and that's our plans. Short introduction. I tried to be short and ready to talk in terms of discussion.
Sure, thanks
you
so much. Let's go to Mr. Suresh, and then we'll move forward to Firdausi from there.
Thank you, Ashish. Thanks everyone. It is really lovely to be here. I run a studio called Studio Ixores in Mumbai, and our major focus is towards creating Indian animated content. And mostly we have been working with short films, and we support ourselves by doing commercials, ad films. So while the ad films are going on, we also parallelly run our film content. And particularly talking about the last year, we have been able to actually take a inward look at ourselves and start developing quite a few original content for OTT platforms, since there was a lot of interest generated internationally with our content. And we have been engaging ourselves in the last year developing content as well as developing talent, getting interested people to work with us and grooming them to make films. As many of you would know, in India, there is a lot of talent, but the filmmaking talent is something that needs to be nurtured. And that is something that we have kind of taken upon ourselves to only, get those people who are really interested in that area and, fund and mentor them at our place and create films of their own, which is directed by them. And we support them in all means. So we finished a few short films last year, and in the process of developing some OTT content. There's a couple of features in the pipeline. So yeah, all in all, everything looking very, very wonderful and positive. I mean, can't complain that it was a year of COVID. Yeah, things are looking brighter. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Suresh. Let's go on to Ms. Firdausi. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Firdaus Bobolia, based in South Africa. I'm going to share my screen and go through it as quickly as possible. So we have started the African Animation Studio, which is quite a new studio. We just started in 2018. Animation in South Africa is not as robust and as built as it is listening to Russia and India. I'm so jealous. We started incubating animation, gaming, and apps design. We also host the Nelson Mandela Children's Film Festival. And I want to just say that, it's kind of proliferating across the continent with a number of productions shown locally and internationally. Now you get feature films, documentaries. But in terms of the South African context, it's still a very small group of people who work in animation. I wanted to show you this little advert that we produced for children on COVID.
I'm just joking, but do you notice anything different about me? I'm wearing my cloth mask. Do you have your mask at home? It's very important for us to wear masks when we're outside to keep us even more safer and protected from the coronavirus. Here are my 4 tips for wearing your cloth masks out. Number 1, make sure that you wash your hands before putting your mask on. Number 2, when your mask is on, make sure that it's covering your nose and your mouth fully. Number 3, always use a clean mask when you're going outside. Number 4, avoid touching your face when your mask is on. I know this one is a little bit tricky. And here's a bonus one. Make sure that you wash your hands after you take your mask off. Remember to always wear your mask when you're out in public. See you later, friends.
So I wanted to show that because we work with a group of young animators, and with COVID having started last year, we were all in lockdown and we didn't know what to do. And we started to work using WhatsApp and online, emailing, and got the team to produce content around COVID. We're now on season 3, so we've actually managed to get them quite excited about this. And then I'm going to go through, just so that you know, the work that we do with children. I thought this might be interesting for you, Uttam, because the focus was on children and COVID, children coping COVID, because there's no talk. Nobody's talking to children about this huge event, this pandemic. And so we thought that the focus needed to be that. We also go into schools when it's possible. As you can see, they all kind of social distance to do a little bit of training around animation to try to get an interest around it. We participated and hosted an international seminar on children coping COVID to find out what our partners are doing, what are people doing in the US, in Europe, in Latin America, to get the talk around COVID. So that has been our kind of support and participation and focus. With this little Wazi animation, we tried to create a little app that we hope the kids will like. And it's very simple, that basically it's just for her to start to see, anyway, how can we start to dress Wazi. So the app could be there, and they just kind of move along and choose the different clothing. This was to get children interested in COVID and to understand what's happening. And then we have this, which is Mandela's Africa feature documentary based on Nelson Mandela's African diary, where we only animated the diary part of it. I'm a little bit worried about time, so I don't want to waste too much time. And then this is another one that we're doing called Princess Adana. I'm so excited to see your work, Vladimir, in terms of the Snow Princess. This is very much a South African version of something. And it's really in its infancy. So I would be keen and excited to talk to you about the wonderful work that you are doing.
In any Game of Thrones, there can only be the victor and the vanquished. And when the battle is between good and evil, freedom and slavery, evil must be seen to be vanquished. Drawing upon the rich folklore of Africa, Princess Adana and the Calabash of Doom is a story of two twin girls, Princess Adana and Princess Kalisha, who battle to inherit the crown of a long-dead goddess. One is the people's princess, whose only goal is to convince her father that she is worthy as any son. The other, a powerful sorceress who intends to use the dark art of sorcery to rule Africa.
Okay, so I'll move on. And then we've got a group that we are incubating on gaming. And the focus here, it's called Dobadesh, is a unique racing game about South African recycling. So it's a recycling community. They're an ad hoc community. And what we try to do is to get young people interested in recycling. So this is a game that they can do online, and it's won some awards, which is exciting. And then just a little bit about how COVID has impacted our sector. And we're saying, despite the challenges, and I'm hearing that from many of you, that the industry adapted and began to utilize new digital spaces. So we see more happening on Netflix, etc. And then this is a partner of ours, Curated, where what she does is a course that provides you with all you need to know to implement your own screening event, film series or film festival. So taking together content for children, for youth, for adults, for women, you could choose what your niche market is and create a festival. And this is all using a mobile phone, even though you could do it online. And then, as we've just spoken about all the different film festivals that are around Africa, we tried to do an Ubuntu film festival looking at the idea of I am because you are, and try to get people connected around content. This could be for children, it could be for women, it could be for youth. So you really just choose which ones you'd like it to be. And I will end with this.
History. They came, they conquered, and they wrote. Now you don't expect people who came to invade us to write the truth about us. They will always write negative things about us. And they have to do that because they have to justify their invasion. We don't write our history. It has always been handed down to us orally by our elders. Of course, the white man came and he writes history. In fact, you don't know anything about any place until the white man gets there. Until the white man comes to any place, nothing lives. It's only when he comes and says, "Boof, I've discovered you, now you exist," which is ridiculous.
So thank you so much. Let me stop sharing.
Oh, thanks so much. I think it looks like a great beginning, and you have pretty much looked at everything. I think you need to add a little bit of visual effects also there. We call it in India, we call it AVGC, Animation, Visual Effects, Gaming and Comics.
I have to come back to India, Ashish. I'm Indian South African, by the way.
Oh, I see. Great. So you're welcome. In fact, we have a huge industry. We will take you around here. And let's go on to Mr. Boris. And I think I'm sure he has got his breath back up from the traffic, and let's hear what he has to say, and then we will go to Uttam.
Yes, thank you for invitation. It's much easier to reach you than to reach the place where I can connect to internet. But now it's okay. So I'll turn on the presentation now. Just a few words about the studio, which I represent as general manager. Seismul Film is the eldest animation studio in Russia. We celebrate 85 years anniversary this year. And still we call ourselves an 85 years startup because the studio was renovated a few years ago, and we started working in digital pipeline after several decades of working in classical animation, and being one of the symbols of Russian culture. So the studio was founded in Moscow in 1938. Now more than 300 people are employed at the studio, and we produced 1,000 minutes of animation last year, and we grow about 40% of production each year. So it's rather large figure for Russia, not for India, of course, but for Russia, it's quite a good result, and we're one of the majors. And the main problem we face now, of course, it's a problem of employers. We need more and more hands to work in our production. So we are handling the large library of Soviet films collection. So during the Soviet time, there were produced about 1,500 items of animation in classical hand draw techniques, in puppetry and stop motion, in cutout animation. What we did now, we left all these techniques at the studio. We still work with them when we produce festival cartoons, but we're focused now on this series for television. We have about 10 items in production now, and the next step, we're going to enter the market of feature animation as Wizard, for example. So there are 3 films in production now. So our legacy includes a lot of items which are known not only in Russia but in other countries as well, in different techniques, as you see. And our modern pipeline includes projects for different categories of kids, starting from the very beginning, from such educational projects as clay motions, which is made in clay stop motion, for example, as rock tunes made in 3D, the line of the project about socialization of kids made in Toon Boom. We have detective story, The Secret Honey Valley. We also have the line of the projects which are based on our classical characters, like I'll Get You or Mr. Teo, Cat and Dog. So these are the movies which were famous in our childhood and sometimes even were famous in the times of our parents. And we tried to modernize them and to bring these characters to life again. So that's it.
So just one question. The I Get You is the show which India, I think it was named as Just You Wait. Is that the same? Like, a wolf who's chasing
rabbit, yes. So it's
2D animation.
Yes, classical show made in hand-drawn techniques, right. Now produced in 3D animation.
We've seen grown up. We've grown up seeing that show quite a lot.
That's great news.
Yes, thanks so much, Boris. In fact, we really loved seeing some of those styles of animation, and also we pretty much do the similar kind of age profiling. In fact, one of the person who looks at the age viewership every week is Uttam Palsing. So it's the right time that he can also intervene and talk about it. So over to you, Uttam.
Thank you, everybody. I thought since everybody is showcasing some, it's a great insights from every region. So I just quickly put together some slides, which I'll like to share with you. This is give you an idea about the general market size of how big India is. These are the reports presented by the BARC agency, which is responsible for measuring the television viewership, especially for kids. So if you can see here, kids in India is one of the biggest and the fastest growing TG, and it contributes about 26% of the total television viewership. There are about 210 million television households, out of which there are like 892 million individuals who are watching television, but 230 million is exactly kids. And that's a huge population. And that is a population, is an audience which is growing at a 9% rate, which is even faster than the rate in which television in India is growing. And that's a very unique part about India, is that the linear television, while there are a lot of OTT platforms which have also come and right now thriving in India, but because the market is so big, even the linear television and the business in linear television is also growing. The kids audience in India, which particularly watch kids shows, they love to watch, is about 80 million as a universe size. And they spend about 334 minutes on an average in a weekly basis. And just recently, because the growth in India has also been on the regional front, there has been growth, with channels. India has great diversity and many states, and every state has its own language. So there has been growth in the kids genre within the language feeds also. And recently, two more kids channels on the linear television came up very recently within 1 year. So just presenting you a little, and because of that, there has been continuous investment, and most of the investment has been going into producing local content. I guess because India has a great market and it has a great history of telling stories which resonate with the Indian audiences, like Bollywood for that matter. So that has really spurred the growth of the sector. And this is again one of the presentations from the ENY FICCI report, with permission from FICCI, is that if you would see the market size, which is about 24.5 billion Indian rupees, and it is expected to grow quite fast as it's going, but about 25 to 30% of that domestic animation service demand is coming from the domestic broadcasters. So all the major broadcasters, as I told you, the number is continuously growing, but even the international players such as Disney, Turner, Viacom, Discovery Kids is continuously investing into local content, shows which resonate with the Indian audiences. And these are the shows which Discovery Kids has built over the past 4 years. Since 2012, we kind of rebooted our channel. In 2018, we launched local content. There is a character called Little Singham, and this is the poster from the movie, followed by in 2019 by a show called Fukre Boys. So one in a superhero zone, the other one in a slapstick, slice of life humor, and both inspired from Bollywood characters who are immensely popular. And then with that kind of a shift, we found great success, in reaching out to the audience. So Discovery Kids, in a matter of 2 years, grew by about 400% in viewership and audiences. So great. So I had Discovery Kids and the strategies around it.
Yeah. So let me start with the first question to Uttam. You talked about the superhero character and the Bollywood influence characters. What does it mean? In terms of most of the characters that we see around predominantly are targeted, or most of the characters are boy characters. what's happening to, whereas the viewership that you showed definitely has 50% of contribution coming from the girl characters or a girl audience who are watching. What's your take, and why is it that globally we are more focused towards boys, not towards girls, because they have a 50% share? Where are we with that?
No, you're right. I mean, I guess on the linear television front, yes, there have been very little opportunities, and there have been missed opportunities. There have been shows, but maybe they have not really risen up to that success if the boy protagonist has been there. But on the OTT platform, again, with the same audience, there has been a plethora of great characters which are girl protagonists. So one, I think, while I've told you linear audiences, but the kids in India is the tune of about 300 million, and we're only reaching to about very small section through linear television.
Yeah.
So there is a great underserved audiences, and I think that's where OTT is also playing a really big part. And they've really added layers of characters which are girl protagonists, and they found good success. So it's not that there is not a demand. I think this would be a platform concern per se. Yes, on a linear platform, boys skew is a lot more. It's about 65-45 ratio. But when you come to OTT platform, then it's like your personal choice, and there girls do demand what they really want to see, and they're getting really good shows to see.
Thanks. In fact, that brings another question, which is to Mr. Wald and Boris both. Then I want both of you to answer. Is some of like you talked about 85 years of existence of a studio. That's something mind blowing. In fact, to survive that long as an entertainment company, it's really strong, and you still call it a 85-year-old startup. It's amazing to know that. But you must be having a library of content. So in the whole journey, of course, animation is always in most of the countries is focused towards the kids genre, and in evolving countries, of course, it will start with kids. But with 85 years of experience or 100+ years of experience in animation in Russia, where do you see, what is the ratio of kids versus animation for grown-ups or family entertainment? So what's your take? Because your features looks like it might be for all family. So if you can both throw some light on both, kids versus animation for all ages.
I think it would be great if we discuss it together with Vladimir, who knows more about family audience for the moment, I think. Yes, it's a kind of, it's not even a kind of strategy, it's a kind of status quo. That Soyuz Film was founded as a studio to produce animation for kids. Now understand that it's not a way for a modern studio because it's, well, you feel very silly when you lose your audience when it grows up. And you spend so many forces and so many years growing up this audience, and then you lose it for a lot of years until they become parents themselves. So for our strategy, it's very important to learn how to work with family audience in cinemas. And we started making experiments with content for schoolers. I hope that we'll find the language with teenagers in some years. And it's a general problem for all Russian animation. There are a lot of directors and screenwriters who'd like to make cartoons for grown-ups even, but they can't find the way to distribute these cartoons. Because the whole system of distribution in Russia, which exists for the last years, it's also focused on the kids. And I think that all of us feel a kind of new hope starting from the last year when OTT platforms started thinking about animation as a good content for them, and they're more focused on the audience of teenagers and grown-ups. So in this case, Pandemia helped us to get new partnerships for distribution.
Wow.
As for our studio, I think that creating something for family audience is a little bit tricky on one side, because you need to attract kids, you need to attract their parents, and you need to attract everyone to watch the more than 1 hour of movie. But on other side, we see the lack of this content all over the world, because it's not easy to produce a feature film which has a production budget more than $10 million, and all platforms does need it. And what we see now, if we're talking about the future, we've been based on the fairy tales of the Snow Queen, of the European authors. And the next, our big issue is to produce the Warrior Princess, which will be based not as Snow Queen, not as Hansel and Gretel, for example, as we did on Secret Magic Control Agency, but it will be based on the local fairy tale by Pushkin. It is very important to produce something unique, something local, because I've been talking to my colleagues from India, and they told me that they have a lot of examples of mythology, which is very rich, very colorful, and they have a lot of characters which are really unique and really interesting, and they really can beat the famous, I don't know, Marvel superheroes. And you just need to put them into this animation philosophy and to put them into the animation movie to make it close and I don't know, make more likely for kids, for example, because you have a lot of movies with based on your mythology for adults, as far as they told me, as I know. But if you make, for example, your heroes of your mythology, we will make our heroes of our fairy tales and put them on the widescreen for the big audience, for the worldwide audience, as we did with the Snow Queen and other titles. It will be a really step forward. Of course, we need, for example, at the first stages, we need to make characters look like Disney characters, because all the kids all over the world, they always watch Disney, they always watch, I don't know, Pixar, and they need these big eyes in the characters and this kind of style that need to be produced. But this will be the first step, when you will make a local story with local characters for the worldwide audience, look like the usual typical animation characters. But then the second step, it could be you can play with this character design and put more unique design things to these characters, something more local, something more unique for India, for Russia. And then you will spread your culture more wider and make it really worldwide, and everyone will watch it and enjoy. It will not be something like I don't know, something like for small audience, something like for festivals. It will be for everyone, and all the kids, all the family audience will watch it and will enjoy it. So that's how I see the future of the feature family production of the animation.
So the productions you have, do you have any of these features which are becoming successful with the family audience, or it is still targeted at kids?
I think all our features were really successful with the family audience, because for the kids we are producing only the TV shows. But if we are talking about the features about the Snow Queen, about Secret Magic Control Agency, it was really successful within the family audience.
Okay. That's great to know. In fact, that requires an evolution, and we are only hoping, even in the population like India, if we are able to get family audience, we would be, that 230 million that Uttam showed would, go 3 times. Coming to Firdausi, in fact, I want to come back to the design part of it, because I want to talk about co-production. And one of the best guys that we have from India in design is Suresh. So I'm going to bring him after Firdausi. Firdausi, my question to you is, you had a very interesting looking characters. What works with your experience there? In fact, most of the time that we are told that in terms of live action films in Africa, Nigeria leads the content. But for animation, what is the scene, and whether you target only South Africa or you target overall subcontinent of Africa when you create content, and how do you tackle if there are different languages? What is your strategy?
Thanks, Ashish. I think I'd like to just share with everybody that there's an Africa Charter on children's broadcasting, and the charter says that children should hear, see, and express themselves, their languages, and their life's experiences through the electronic media that reaffirms their sense of self, community, and place. And so when I hear us talking about characters and that we want them to look like Disney, I think we have a huge responsibility as filmmakers and storytellers to really look local. And Uttam, what you're showing me in terms of the Indian characters was wonderful to see. What we had done with our Wazi character, this little 8-year-old girl, whose idea initially was, we wanted her to, kind of tumble out of bed and go and discover the continent. And then COVID happened. So as she tumbled out of bed, it said, stay at home. And we had to think about what it is that Wazi would be doing that would really bring African children, so not just South African children. And I have to say to you that even through the Asia Broadcasting Institute and the Asia Broadcasting Union, we've had little Wazi as a character in India, in Iran, in China. So other countries have taken Wazi. They've dubbed her so that she speaks a local language, but she is South African. She is African. And I work in the sector. I've been working in children's media since 1990. So I'll work around ensuring that African children's voices are placed on that pedestal is important. We also hosted the World Summit on Media for Children in 2007. And so when I see that you started in 2007, for example, we've been talking about quality media for children from Asia, well, the global South, so that we make sure that our children see themselves, that they are proud of who they see. And I think from the design element, that is so important. Also that Africa is a huge continent. There are people who look like me, and there are people who look like Wazi. So how do we make sure that we encourage and engage this diversity, I think, of features of who we are and what we look like? And this was important for us with our little character, Wazi. You are right that Nollywood, that's what it's called in Nigeria, is even bigger than Bollywood and Hollywood. Well, no, I think Bollywood is still bigger. So it's Hollywood, Nollywood, and Bollywood. The Nollywood, the Nigerians have begun to look at animation as an opportunity. I think you might have heard about Triggerfish in South Africa. They did extremely well with their content, but sadly, they've moved over to Ireland. So they're not really vested in making sure that they build in capacity for local people, for African people. It was like, we're out of here if you're going to give us too many issues around support and building capacity locally. So I think we have a huge responsibility as the BRICS countries to see how we're a huge number. Why are we pandering to a Western European or Western American look, for that matter? Why are we not saying what is local, what is good for our children? And in Africa, in South Africa, we have Afrikaans as a language, and we say local is lekker, which means local is tasty, local is wonderful. And that's really, I think, what we need to do, Ashish, is really to begin to say that when we're producing, who's the audience? Because for too long, as you know, really bad quality animations were produced around the world and dumped onto us for our children. They didn't care about how they looked. They didn't care about what they said. They didn't care about the fact that they were racist, that they were not culturally acceptable. And we had to accept it because we were broadcasters without content, and we had to just take it. I think this shift has happened. I think we have a huge responsibility to push that shift, and therefore then to look at how we work together to make sure that those characters represent who we are. Thank you.
Firdausi, very, very well articulated. In fact, we are missing Brazil and China in today's context, but I've been to to Brazil and met with studios there, and even if you see, the largest number of kids happen to be in China and India. So you pretty much have the largest audience eyeballs over here. But while you said, why animation makes so much sense, because it's a very neutral form of storytelling, and the neutral form which transcends into any age, any culture. It can be dubbed in any language, but then there are sensibilities with the design, and I would like Suresh to tell us about what goes in basically designing the right characters which would unify the content acceptability across the globe, and how do we really work which also look at a cross-culture mechanism in design. Of course, language defines it more directly, but the design has to be very evolved.
Right. No, I'm like, I can hear a lot of different opinions about design, and I would always try to look at how Japan created their local content. They were not really threatened by Disney, or they never kind of accepted Disney design, because they didn't have enough money to produce that sort of smooth animation. So they came up with a style which has very limited drawings, but it was super highly produced, very, very good lighting. Everything was very well produced, but they created this anime that we all know about today, which is so popular around the world. It was something that they developed only for internal consumption, for their own local consumption. It was not something that was meant to be consumed by a lot of people. Similarly, in Russia, I mean, I know Yuri Norstein very well. The Herzog, the hedgehog in the fog film is so popular in Russia, Ukraine. I mean, it was popular in Soviet Union, and all the children that have seen those characters have been watching such films. And when I feel resemblance to popular series may somehow connect with success. That okay, Disney, this looks like Disney character, so okay, then it can become successful because children can think, okay, this is something that I'm familiar with. Sort of it's a notion. I feel. If a story is rooted, there are two most important things in animation film. One is the story, and the second, or even sometimes even leading aspect, is a character, which is that character that kids would relate with. I think that makes all the difference. I mean, in India, as you would know, when we did Simpu long back, it was something that people they were not used to seeing. It was way back in 2000 when we launched it for this television channel in India. But people accepted it because the personality of that character was absolutely acceptable, and it was nothing to do with Disney. It was absolutely indigenous design. And when we did Fisherwoman and Tuk Tuk also, when the character was ugly, it was a woman. I mean, that's a very pertinent question that you asked. Why female characters are not leading the show? I mean, internationally there is Dora, many examples of very successful series by female characters. I think it is something that is changing worldwide. I think that people are really looking at female characters as lead, and that's a very, very welcome change. I mean, all our films, mostly it's all female character led. So I won't be able to comment on the other aspect because we generally lean towards that sort of an aspect. Also, it's also, if you look at Indian animation, Ashish, we don't have so much of female participation as animation filmmakers or animators compared to the male population, which is so large. I think it is very different in Russia. There is a massive lot of female animators, also as much as male animation population. So I think just purely talking about design, I really feel if you're authentically rooted in local content and not trying to ape or simulate or just confuse the children that, okay, this kind of looks like Disney, but it's not Disney. But it's kind of acceptable because you're used to it. You're used to seeing your toys and your merchandise and everything from Disney. So there is that familiarity that kind of attracts the children, definitely. But it takes more risk, definitely. I understand it takes more risk for someone to come up with an authentic new design. And that is really extracted from local life. And like Vlad was talking about, and Boris was talking about Pushkin, Tolstoy, all these amazing story writers which we have grown up in India reading, they should still inspire the children over there. I mean, if you adapt it, I'm sure it as in the 60s or the 50s, they must have made films based on their stories. I'm sure in Russia, because there is also a very rich culture of artistic filmmaking in Russia. I mean, as much as the popular TV series thing, there's also a very rooted artistic filmmaking culture that is supporting both these aspects, which is a great help. As far as I see, that's a very healthy thing, even more than the American animation scenario. I find Russian they're having that amazing balance of great artistic work and amazing the commercial work also is very, very big. So the designs can be easily adapted from both ways. A short film, like when we launched Fisherwoman and Tuk Tuk, we didn't know that it will be such an overwhelming response from people. But there are a lot of people who are coming to us. Let's make a series based on that. We thought it's an ugly character. She's not conventionally good looking, but she's crass and she's connecting people with the heart. So because it's really created like that. So I feel designs really not kind of restrict on the influences. The influences de-risk. I mean, if you go by the influences, it will definitely de-risk your thing, but I think it will compromise your authenticity. Okay. So if you had to choose between them, I would really choose authenticity.
Absolutely. I think that's why the local content made it very big because it was authentic. And then rest of the audience in the world accepted it because the storytelling was great. And probably the design was different, whatever we can call. But the tomorrow's strategy in animation globally might not restrict ourselves only to entertainment in animation. So one quick question to all of you is going to be, how can BRICS countries come together on the co-production front is one thing. And whether we restrict ourselves only to the entertainment animation, or we grow up with the animation that is used for journals, animation for news, animation for various we call it as explaining medical, they call it a medical animation in many places. And then there is something called as a legal animation where people show how the things would have happened. So my first question to Boris is, what kind of co-productions do you foresee coming, and whether we can collaborate in terms of tomorrow's strategy for global animation within the BRICS countries?
Yes. It's very important for us to become a company which produce international projects. Really, we're associated with the local market, with maybe a kind of Russian philosophy in animation. It's really so. And I feel and I see how our short cartoons differs from European festival movies, for example. So it's really a big challenge for us. But we will be happy if our series and feature animation could become not only the projects which can be sold abroad, but which could become a part of international co-production. And as you know, our state also shows big interest to export of our culture and co-production in different kinds of cinematography. And we have an agreement between Russian state and India, for example, which supports such kind of co-production. And it could be a very good way for us. And we also tried to make these first steps, not to place production in India, but to find a project for co-production. We started it last year, and I hope that in a few years we'll get such kind of a project.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much. In fact, we would definitely put something together so that we can discuss some of the co-productions. Going to Mr. Val, what do you think, or would you like to look at animation extended to many other ways of use in tomorrow's strategy and also the co-production?
Well, my dream is to put something, to make something local and to go it widely to the worldwide. And I was really impressed with the stories and with mythology of my colleagues from India. And that's a real huge history, a lot of heroes, a lot of characters, which can be really impressive for the worldwide. And that's the question of the time, I think, because when we see some huge animation releases in China, something like Monkey King, it is done with some I would say usual Disney character design, but it was very popular in China because it was based on the very popular fairy tale in China, and it went very well in US as well. If you will take a look at the numbers of the Monkey King, for example, or the White Snake, it did pretty nice in United States as well. So my dream is to build some local stories as we're producing right now on Pushkin or some big mythology fairy tales from India, and to make it visible for everyone in Australia, in Brazil, worldwide, and that will be really cool. And I think really important thing here is the software. What we did with the software, our own with the DCC platform for these past 8 years is a huge amount of work. And we send this software to all Russian studios for free to make it, to try it, to test it, and to give their feedback. And also we gave it to Boris, to Soyuz-Multfilm, and to Perevos, to everyone here in Russia. So we need to get their feedback, if it what need to be improved, what should be done another way. But I think if we will make free software which can be spread among our countries, among European countries, Russia, Brazil, whatever, and it will be more easy to access, then it will be a huge step forward in the future.
Yeah, if you have translated it in English, we will share it with our studios as well. And
it is in English, so we're happy to share it with.
Yeah, please share it. We would definitely like to test. If it's available in the open market. Uttam,
we send it also to Canada, to some studios in Canada already, some studios from Czech Republic, and yes, we would be happy to do it. Sure, I think Absolutely. It will be a big step for everyone.
Absolutely. In fact, Uttam, it's the point of view that we are looking at is the broadcasters and the co-productions. Of course, you guys are a worldwide network, so you definitely are present in all the other countries. But when it comes to the co-production, what are the critical factors that you would look at, particularly with the BRICS countries? And is there a possibility that we look at tomorrow's strategy more in terms of co-productions than having independent productions for the country itself?
So in terms of opportunity, by listening to everybody here and looking at this great work, which is coming out from studios, what Vlad mentioned, what Mr. Boris mentioned, and the purpose-driven stories and the characters, which for those you mentioned, I think there's great opportunity. And that's kind of does align with Discovery's philosophy. We are invested in kids a lot. Entertainment is going to be important, but it's going to be like entertainment with a purpose. And I think that's where the key is, being a global broadcaster and #1 pay TV network across the globe, but now venturing into OTT platform, which will have a specific, which has a dedicated kids vertical also. Those are the opportunities which you're working on. We have found success in the local stories, but we've not really I would say rested. The story is just begun for us. For us, it was more important to understand whether we can actually create success for the kids audiences. And we've done that. And now, with our, frankly, in Latin America, Discovery Kids is one of the biggest brands over there already, an established one also. So we are working for opportunities to to work on some projects together. Of course, time will only tell, but I don't see any reason why we cannot collaborate, with wonderful skills. And as Vlad mentioned, they've created a software with 8 years of research and which they're lending it out for free. I mean, that's amazing, because I think that's one of the key things within Indian studios also. It's a great tool, but because there's only limited people in the market, you kind of train the animators with a specific tool. And if this kind of knowledge sharing happens within the country, that's a great step. So from this meeting, I'm only going more inspired.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I want opportunities.
So we have a very less time, but I want to definitely go to Firdausi and Suresh again. Firdausi, the opportunities for you, it's great. When we started animation, we had only broadcasting as an opportunity. Of course, feature film was there, but it was a very tough call. India is a very dominant live action country. To survive against the live action heroes is very difficult, but there have been attempts, and now we have seen some of the successes. So for you, drawing the tomorrow's strategy, what is more important, whether you continue with broadcasting and a mix of OTT, or you would dabble into feature films, which is entirely a very different paradigm, because you need a very different marketing muscle and the financial muscle to market it. What's the strategy for you? You have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. I think all of it really. I think it's around development, trying to grow as many young talent as possible. So we started the incubation, and we're using it digitally. It's how do you get it out? Because broadcasters, I think their appetite is also getting smaller, so it's not really always the space that you go to. I like the idea of collaboration and co-production. I like the idea that there might be potentially software that we could test, and that younger animators could work with and use. I do see collaboration as an opportunity, particularly in animation, and particularly now COVID. We've learned that we can do things online and we can do things differently. I had an earlier conversation as part of BRICS, and they were talking about AI and how do we use AI in all of what we are doing. So there are so many possibilities, and you're right. You start later, but you leapfrog. So you get on par with everybody else much sooner, because the technology is there to make you do that. I would like, as just an aside, as we were talking about the characters, the female characters, there's an interesting study, because I work internationally with Prix Jeunesse, which is a festival that happens in Germany. Yeah. They're almost, they kind of say they're the Oscars in children's content. And the study was really around the girl child, and how when you talk about Dora the Explorer, how Dora became thinner and thinner, and the eyes got bigger and bigger. And the point really, Suresh, as you're saying, it's around design. And if there aren't enough women in the sector, men are going to fantasize and do all kinds of things. It's really for us to begin to consider what are the options, what is our reality, what is the story that we're trying to tell, and therefore when it comes to the design as well, to consider those aspects. So we do need to train more women. I think there needs to be an upskilling of women in the sector, more animators, more thinkers. The storyline, as you say, which is so important because it fuses with the design. What is the character? Who is the character? And wonderful to hear you saying that there are characters in India and in Russia that are typical, that are local, that people have gravitated towards, and they want to see that. This is what we're trying to do, Ashish, with our little Wazi. As you see, we put in different places. We've had a travel. We participated as the Pre-Jeunesse. Last year they had a huge event around COVID content, and we were in the top 10. Now, for us as a little project, it was really very exciting to know that you can discuss this amongst other bigger players. The quality will always improve. The better the software, the better the technology, the better the access. So I'm really, as Uttam said, very inspired and very excited because I can see the collaboration that can happen. And I'm taking really nuggets from this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Firdausi. In fact, although we are running out of time, I want to go to Suresh, if you can unmute yourself, Suresh, and ask you, in suddenly last 18 months, we realized globally that the kids were like many kids studying out of a cell phone, a very small screen, and many kids have to, be within the home, and it's very difficult for their age when they are really exploring the world to be confined to, and their social skills took a beating. What's your take for tomorrow's strategy for animation? How much of an introduction of education has to be into animation content than entertainment? Whether we should be having a right mix of entertainment to make sure that it goes light on the kids and they have their learning curve. So for tomorrow's strategy, what's your take? What should be the right strategy?
I think it's a very interesting question, Ashish. I think, all the courses we've all studied with all sitting through those boring classes, if not for funny teachers or, our friends who are also, mischievous, it would have been extremely boring sitting in the classes. The course structures are so boring. I always felt animation could aid in education, but it has become a massive industry now without putting so much heart into that work. There are so many e-learning courses that are so bad that, it's not, they're not putting their heart and soul in that sort of a purpose. And I feel, looking at children and talking to them like kuchiku is not the way to talk to them. Talk to them like how you would talk to anybody else, talk to them like adults, that is the best way to kind of respect them rather than, considering them and making them feel like children and feeding them very carefully things that you think they can eat, but they can eat much more. So, this whole deal of toning down certain things for children in the name of entertainment, making it spoon-fed and, making it so contrived and sloppy is something that I feel one should really avoid, and kids would outright reject. So if we all as animation filmmakers try to spoon-feed them, they are not going to take it. You may be using TV to thrust them through, but tomorrow everybody is going to have their own choices. A kid will choose what they want to watch. If it is not entertaining and it is not talking to them, they're not going to subscribe to you. So I think, and education is a humongous area where I think we can help if a lot of us come together and think about how it can be made into a much nicer sort of environment. As you know, there are several modules that are using animation in a very rudimentary but very effectively. Nowadays, they've started coming in. So I'm really hopeful that that is the way to do compassion. You need to be compassionate, and you need to also, look at them as equals. I think that is where the whole equation change. That's for me. I mean,
in fact, yes. In fact, we see that with the whole COVID, that people got pushed to have online learning. Now we're talking about physical and digital, or some people call it blended. But then even in terms of content, it needs to be blended in education as well as fun, so that the kids can have a very good learning curve, irrespective of whatever situation they are going through. 1 hour has just passed, and I wish we could discuss for another couple of hours, because the topics are too many to discuss, but we are always constrained on these kind of conferences with the time. But I think offline, there is a huge play for all the BRICS studios to come together. We would definitely like to invite you all to India very soon in something called as FICCI Frames that we have. Will be our 22nd year of holding this conference, and that's where we will have a chance to have a face-to-face meeting and put together some of the co-productions. But nevertheless, it was amazing to see 85 plus years of experience, younger experiences, and people from broadcast as well as design come together and do a very thought-provoking strategy for tomorrow, and pouring your hearts out, truly engaging and extremely well contributed session. A big thank you to each one of you, and we wish to meet very soon and take this agenda forward, so that we all can work together and create something called as the BRICS content for the world, with a very new dimension. Thank you very much, and back to you at the studios at FICCI. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ashish. Thanks everyone. A wonderfully moderated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
just letting everybody know, the session was moderated by one of the biggest producer of a local animation series called Lil Krishna. So Ashish ji, Vlad, you would be glad to know that he was the one who created one of the most amazing, most popular show called Lil Krishna, and it still remains as one of the best ones. So thank you, Ashish ji. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.